morning, friends. I wanted to get on here really quick. I just woke up, but I wanted to get on here to talk about Section 230. And yes, I am still sick. I have been sick for like 2 weeks now, and it's not going away. But anyway, I want to talk about Section 230 and why both parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, wanting to repeal or get rid of it is a really bad idea. And usually when you hear bipartisan, you think, wow, that means like both parties are coming together to agree on something for the good of the people. This is one of those rare instances where both parties of the government and not the people coming together is actually pretty dangerous. So for those of you that don't know what Section 230 is, Section 230 basically keeps our freedom of speech on the internet and keeps it free. It allows people to say what they will without platforms like, this platform right here getting sued for it. And of course the individual can still be sued, but the idea that a platform could get sued for something that somebody says might sound like a great thing at first, but that also means that platforms would be more apt to strictly censor themselves more so than they already are, and that's the reason why we have to use like weird code word speak online, and I'm done doing that, but that is the main point, and they're trying to repeal it, and that could actually look pretty dangerous for a lot of people because it would basically eliminate any sort of right that people have to have forums about any topic that is not deemed acceptable. And we have to think, do we really want to have our First Amendment rights taken away? I remember last night I was watching the local Democrat candidates for my district, which is District 11. And one of the things that stood out, those things are actually really entertaining, even if you are not really big into politics, which you should be, because everything's politics. But definitely watch your local elections and stuff, and it's really cool to be involved with local government. But one person said that he kind of wanted to go against the First Amendment, which I was like, dude, you just lost everyone's vote. And that's the thing though. Section 230 is allowing me to speak on this online freely, because without it, I would not be allowed to criticize the idea that a candidate wants to get rid of some parts of free speech, that's ridiculous. And I know that it happens on the other side just as much. And I think that is the thing. And they're both going to try to blame each other. So when you do see this come out more into the news, definitely be ready for both sides, the Republicans and the Democrats, to start blaming each other for it. They want to divide us. But honestly, having free speech on the internet has saved so many people's lives. It has allowed so many people to reach out and talk about things that, we wouldn't otherwise. And I really don't think that we should have a governmentally censored internet. And I know that that's something that pretty much anyone watching, even if you disagree with a lot of my other points, I feel like that's something that everybody pretty much watching could agree with. I think that, and it also gives platforms the right to censor themselves, which sometimes they do a really bad job of, but it is still better than the literal entire government censoring you, because that means anything that you want to say to go against what the government is doing is no longer allowed. And of course they're going to probably spin it as, oh, well, the internet's unsafe for kids, and that the internet could be like a dangerous place filled with dangerous things, but that is up to individuals, I believe. I don't think that we need to have a purely PG world with only nice words all the time. I do think misinformation and inappropriate content is out there. And I do think that it is the platform's responsibility to do something about it. I know they often don't. But at the same time, getting rid of that does get rid of people's free speech. And I do know that there are some things that really should not be on the internet. However, giving them this type of power is a very slippery slope. And I know for a fact, especially with this administration, it will be taken to the most extreme, and it will allow for platforms to basically go extinct if the administration does not agree with it. We have had Section 230 since the 90s. It is a pretty old law. It's pretty old legislation. And the people that tried to repeal it in the first place were usually very conservative Christian groups. And when I say that, I want to preface, I am not talking about all Christians. I'm talking about specific conservative Christian groups, because I know a lot of Christians don't believe the same way. But I do know that these groups were trying to repeal it in the beginning of the internet's time, basically saying, well, what if my child talks to a gay person? What if they find something inappropriate online? And thankfully, Section 230 still exists. I don't know what stage they are at in getting rid of it, or if they are even going to succeed. I hope they do not. I definitely would say call your representatives to talk to them about it. Say that you support Section 230 and you don't want it going anywhere. Other than that, this is a pretty new development, and I do know that this would leave us with basically no free speech online. And since online is the way that we kind of talk to each other, like I'm talking to you right now, and allow people to have free comment and just free assembly, because a lot of people are too busy to actually, assemble in a town square or, and we also can talk to people across the globe, which is amazing. I think that after, people in war-torn Palestine being able to talk to people in the US and get aid and get help and just get the word out there, I think that scared a lot of politicians. And I think it made them probably start sweating a little bit, because the fact that we can see what the government is doing and then respond accordingly and actually talk to the victims of some of these brutal crimes is amazing. And I think we need to keep that right. As well as the fact that without this, like tonight, I am going to be live streaming a town hall for a potential moratorium about a data center being built in my town. And that would not happen under any of this. And I could not post my opinions about it, meaning that basically nobody would be allowed to organize. This is effectively trying to stamp out any community organization. And I think they're doing this because they're scared, because they see that we have the power of organizing and we're all pretty good at it. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. I am all over the place this morning, but I just felt so strongly to talk about it because it's pretty important. And I know that my friends on any side of the political spectrum value free speech, or at least I'd like to assume that they do. I don't think anyone wants to live in a world where they can't say the things that they feel like they should say. So this is pretty important to me. And this even goes for people with opinions that I despise, people with opinions that I don't agree with at all. I still think you should have the right to those opinions. And you should have a right to say them online. Even if they're wrong, even if it's not a fact, you still should have the right to, and then be able to face the own social consequences of saying such things. And I think a social consequence is a lot different than the government flat out telling you, here's what you are allowed to say and here's what you're not allowed to say. But yeah. I am going to be putting up another video very soon. I was going to do a lot more of like a nice DIY video, but I just found out about this, so I want to talk about it. And I am not the most knowledgeable person on this. However, just even hearing from the basics, you really don't have to have a lot of knowledge to know that them repealing this is a bad idea. And I think that's the thing. I feel like a lot of Americans feel like they have, you know, kind of duct tape over their mouth, and that's not good. That really is not good. Because that is kind of what our country's built on, is free speech.